Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to our endocrinology series. It's so good to see you. I'm Dr. Eze Bassi, as usual, and today I'll be taking the topic, definition, and classification of hormones. I really want to thank you for your support last year. But I still need you to please subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our channel for more videos and like our videos if you like what you're seeing or if you're learning anything interesting from our videos. So I am hoping that at the end of this session, you should be able to define what hormones are, should be able to tell us their characteristic and functions. I would also want you to be able to describe the different classification of hormones, describe the factors that stimulate hormone production, as well as explain how hormones are transported. Hormones are a very interesting topic because it has to do with maintaining homeostasis within the body. And we do know that to be able to maintain homeostasis, you require the coordination of so many different systems. You have the nervous systems, reproductive system, you have what else? Respiratory system, you have the kidney system, and all that. So you have a whole renal system, the whole different lot of systems and organs, and you need them to be able to work together. You need to be able to coordinate, their actions. They don't work differently. They need to work together. So that communication between neighboring cells, between cells and tissues in distant parts of the body occurs through the release of chemicals which are known as hormones. So what are these very, very important hormones? They can be defined as chemical substances that are secreted directly into the bloodstream by endocrine glands, and they are carried in the circulation to target tissues to elicit biological responses by acting on specialized receptors in the target cell, thus playing numerous vital roles in homeostasis. You should note that their actions are physiological and they work at very, very low concentration. That is very vital to know. So what are the characteristics of these hormones? First of all, you should know that they are produced in one organ and they influence the functioning of another organ called the target organ. These organs can be far away, they can be nearby cells, they can even be the cell itself, all right? And their effect is usually very specific in nature because they do bind and interact with what is called a receptor, which are specific for that particular kind of hormone. And these receptors are located on target cells. The hormones that are produced can be proteins, they can be amino acids, they can be steroids, they can also be specialized kind of like fatty acids like the eicosanoids and all that, okay? So they can be secreted directly into the blood and carried throughout the body. That is why the effects of hormone are systemic, they affect the entire body. And hormones, you should know, are secreted in response to specific stimuli. There must be a stimuli that, you know, makes a hormone to be secreted, specific stimuli. We will go to those stimuli as we go forward. And they are very effective in low concentration. I have said that before. Hormones don't accumulate in blood, all right? Those that bind to target cells are destroyed, in some amount of time, sometimes seconds to almost 30 minutes. And if there is any excess hormone, they are usually cleared by the liver and kidney. Therefore, for prolonged effect, you must have that hormone being continually produced. This is very important when you come to regulation of hormone action. If they are continually there without being cleared, could have disease states or disorders resulting. Okay, so what are the functions of these hormones? Amongst other things, they are involved in regulation of growth and development of physical, sexual, and mental characteristics. They kind of regulate digestion, utilization of nutrients by the cell. They regulate the adjustments of salt and water balance. They regulate also respiration, excretion, metabolic rate, and they also help us to deal with mood, stress, sleep, as well as reproduction. So how are hormones classified? There are different classification systems, and about 5 I will mention here. They could be classified according to their chemical nature, that is, what are they made up of. They could also be classified according to their mechanism of action, sometimes also according to their nature of action, their effects, on the target cells, and their stimulation of endocrine glands. For instance, let's look at classification based on their chemical nature of the hormones. All right, if you are looking at the chemical nature of the hormones, they could be classified as steroid hormones, amine hormones, peptide hormones, protein hormones, glycoprotein hormones, which is a kind of specialized protein hormones. You have conjugated proteins and carbohydrates. Then you can have eicosanoid hormones, which are derivatives of fatty acids. So the steroid hormones are derived from cholesterol, and examples of such hormones include estrogen, progestins, adrenal cortex hormones like aldosterone, cortisol, and all that. Okay, amine hormones are derived from amino acids like tyrosine and tryptophan. If you're looking for an example of a tyrosine-based hormone, we have the thyroid hormones and the catecholamines. If you're looking for a tryptophan-based hormone, you should have melatonin. For the peptide hormones are derived from a few numbers of amino acid hormones, usually in a flat line, and they include oxytocin and vasopressin, which are produced by the hypothalamus but stored in the posterior pituitary till when used. Then you have the protein hormones, which are derived from a larger number of amino acid residues. They usually have primary structure, secondary structure, quaternary structure, and all that. Okay, and they include insulin, glucagon, somatotropins. Okay, then you have your glycoprotein hormones. These are conjugated proteins bound to carbohydrates, and they include factors that inhibit growth hormones and TSH. And then you have your eicosanoid hormones, very, very interesting, your prostaglandins. They are derivatives of fatty acids with conjugated with arachidonic acids. All right, they are prostaglandins. There are different kinds of prostaglandins, prostaglandin A, prostaglandin E, prostaglandin F, and all that. Okay, if you are looking at classification according to the mechanism of hormones, all right, we will have your 1 hormones and your group 2 hormones. Your group 1 hormones are lipophilic. That means that they are lipid soluble. They are also derived from cholesterol derivatives, and they could also be T3, T4, which are not cholesterol derivatives. Those are amines, all right? But because T3 and T4 are lipophilic, they belong to this group, amongst other things. They also are known to bind to intracellular receptors and are mostly found in general circulation bound to transport proteins. Because they are lipophilic, they have to be bound to transport proteins to be able to be transported. And they do have longer half-lives of hours or days. Examples are your estrogen, your progesterone, your adrenal cortex hormones like your mineralocorticoid aldosterone, your glucocorticoids, cortisol, and then the amines T3 and T4. The group 2 hormones are not lipophilic. They are lipophobic, so they cannot get across the cell membrane into the cytoplasm. So they have to bind to a surface plasma membrane receptor. And with that binding, they stimulate the release of a second messenger. And they are usually transported in free form since they are lipophobic, they can be transported in free form, but because they are transported in free form, they have very short lives of minutes, and they are divided into 4 groups: those who have CAMP as the second messenger, those who have CGMP as their second messenger, those who have phospholipids, inositol or calcium as a second messenger, and those who have kinase or phosphatase as their second messenger. Examples of those who have CAMP as a second messenger include your adrenocorticotropic hormone, your follicle stimulating hormone, your luteinizing hormone. Those that have CGMP as their second messenger are the atrial natriuretic factor. Those who have inositol or phospholipids or calcium as their second messenger include your TRH, your that's thyroid releasing hormone, your gonadotropin releasing hormone, gastrin. Those who have a kinase or phosphatase as their second messenger include insulin, growth hormone, and prolactin. Another interesting classification is the nature of the hormone's action. Does it work locally, or is it a general hormone? All right. For the local hormones, these hormones kind of have like a specific local effect through paracrine secretion. A very, very important example would be the testosterone. While the general hormones are hormones that are transported through circulation to distal target tissues or organs, and they include things like your thyroid hormones, your insulin. Then if we are looking at classification according to the effect of the hormones, you would have kinetic hormones, metabolic hormones, and morphogenetic hormones. What are kinetic hormones? Like the name implies, they are hormones that cause movements like muscle contraction, pigment migration, glandular secretion, and other things. A very, very good example is your epinephrine. Then your metabolic hormones are hormones that mainly causes changes in the rate of metabolism and balance the reaction. They include things like insulin, glucagon, parathyroid hormones. Then your morphogenetic hormones has to do with growth. Okay, they are hormones that are mainly involved in growth and differentiation in the body. They include your follicle stimulating hormones, your luteinizing hormones, and also your thyroid hormones. Then, if we look at classification according to stimulation of endocrine glands, we have tropic hormones and non-tropic hormones. Okay, eutrophic hormones are hormones that stimulate other endocrine glands for secretion. And this will include most of the stimulating hormones, most of the releasing hormones. Like, for instance, your thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the secretion of the thyroid gland for the production of hormones, thyroid hormones. While the non-tropic ones are hormones that usually exert their effect on non-endocrine target tissues. Okay, for instance, when your thyroid hormone is produced, it helps to increase the rate of oxygen consumption and metabolic activity of different cells of the body. Do we understand? Please, if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat box. I'll get back to them later. And please subscribe to our channel and like our channel. All right. So what are the factors that stimulate hormone production? If you do remember in our earlier slides, we said that hormone production is stimulated by specific stimuli. All right. And these stimuli include humoral stimuli, hormonal stimuli, and neural stimuli. Neural stimuli, remember the neuroendocrine system? We have come back to it again. So the humoral stimuli has to deal with hormone release in response to changes in things like your ECF fluids, your extracellular fluids, like changes in blood glucose level, changes in ion concentration level, like sodium level, potassium level, and all that. Okay, so a very good example of a humoral stimuli would be increase in glucose levels after a very delicious carbohydrate meal. You have an increase in glucose. This will stimulate the production of insulin so as to encourage the entrance of glucose into the cells for storage. All right. And then the hormonal stimuli has to do with um, the production or the release of a hormone in response to stimulation of the gland of that hormone by another hormone. This has to do with, like for instance, if thyroid stimulating hormone is produced by the anterior pituitary, it works on the thyroid gland to produce an increase in the thyroid hormones. All right. And then lastly, we are looking at neural stimuli. This has to do with the neural system or the nervous system. And you have the nervous system directly stimulating endocrine glands to release hormone. For instance, if you have a systemic nervous system stimulation for whatever reason, you could have a production of epinephrine, especially during a situation where you may need to fight or run away. All right, so you have your sympathetic nervous system stimulation giving rise to increased epinephrine production. So we should note that hormone production is stimulated by specific stimuli. All right, so how are these hormones transported? Usually the hormones are secreted into systemic circulation, the blood circulation, like we've already said. Some of them are secreted into portal system and allow for direct hormone targeting. We had said that some of them are released directly to go and act like your some of your hormones. Some of them exist freely, like I've already said, while some of them are bound to proteins. We had said that before. And that these transport proteins hold the hormones inactive in systemic circulation, which is why those type of hormones will have a long half-life. Those who exist freely usually do not have that kind of long half-life. And the transport proteins kind of create like a reservoir within the circulation that facilitates an even distribution of hormones throughout the tissue or the organ. So, having come to the end of this class, I want to thank you for staying throughout. And I want to say, please, if you do have any questions, write it down in the chat box. We'll get back to you. Thank you very much for your time. And bye bye. And God bless. Bye.